Roy Marcus Cohn said, "I bring out the worst in my enemies. That's how I get them to defeat themselves." If Sidney Zion's autobiography of Roy Cohn and Nicholas von Hoffman's Citizen Cohn have it right, Roy Cohn was one of the most curious child prodigies ever born. Moreover, he was trapped throughout his life inside his own early precociousness. Many others were trapped with him along the way. One of them was Joe McCarthy. McCarthy never knew what he was dealing with. He didn't destroy himself, as it is so often put. He was unable to survive Cohn's prodigious obsessions. Most child prodigies are pint-sized musicians, artists, poets, dancers, mathematicians, or chess players. Mr. Cohn was a child political prodigy. His talent was not for political science either. It was politics as practiced in the Bronx County Courthouse in the 1930s, where the rules of the favor bank, with its IOUs and contracts, were the only rules that applied. By his own account, as well as Mr. von Hoffman's, Cohn had no boyhood. He was raised as a miniature adult. His father, Albert Cohn, was a judge in the Bronx and a big mocker, a very big deal, in the Bronx Democratic Organization, which in turn, under the famous Edward J. Boss Flynn, had a pivotal position in the National Democratic Party. Cohn grew up in an apartment on Walton Avenue, just down the street from the courthouse, near the crest of the Grand Concourse, watching big mockers coming and going through the living room, transacting heavy business with his father. "I didn't hang around arguing with my buddies about whether DiMaggio was better than Mel Ott," says Cohn. His idea of recreation was discussing with his father interesting cases that had come before his court. He claims he was only 8 when the force of his logic changed forever the judge's attitude towards eyewitness testimony. At the age of 10, Roy was introduced by his father, Al Cohn, a respected Bronx and then New York State Supreme Court judge, to FDR. Roy, who began speaking at political rallies at the age of 9, promptly informed the president he agreed with his court-packing schemes. At 12, he says, he got into a serious argument with the old man over the proper operations of the favor bank. Judge Cohn had ascended to the appellate division thanks to the political machinations of another judge, Francis Martin. So Al Cohn had a big marker out, an IOU outstanding collectible by Francis Martin. 2 years later, Judge Martin came to Al Cohn and asked him to vote his way in a case before the appellate division. Al Cohn refused, saying his conscience wouldn't allow it. Both Roy and his mother, Dora Marcus Cohn, descended on Al, saying he had broken the law of the favor bank. When it came time to pay up on a marker as big as the one Al Cohn had out to Francis Martin, that was a contract. You had no choice but to pay up on a contract, at least in the eyes of Roy Marcus Cohn, aged 12. Cohn says he was 15 when he pulled off his first major piece of power brokerage. Using his uncle Bertie Marcus's connections, he acted as intermediary in the purchase of a radio station, WHOM, by Generoso Pope, father of one of Cohn's schoolmates. Generoso Pope Sr. had immigrated to the United States in 1906, in tandem with Tammany Hall. Bosses and Cosa Nostra connections rose to become the most influential man in American politics as a kingmaker for Mussolini, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, J. Edgar Hoover, and Pope Pius XII. According to Cohn, Pope gave him a $10,000 commission, and Cohn kicked back a portion of it to a lawyer for the Federal Communications Commission, an FCC kickback at age 15. Generoso Gene Pope Jr. later purchased the New York Enquirer for $75,000 with a loan from his godfather Frank Costello in 1952, and converted the failing newspaper into a successful tabloid and changed its name to the National Enquirer in 1957. By age 16 or 17, according to Mr. von Hoffman, Cohn thought nothing of calling a police precinct to fix a speeding ticket for one of his high school teachers. At 18, in the last year of the Second World War, says Mr. von Hoffman, Mr. Cohn avoided the draft by having himself nominated to West Point 3 times in a row by a friendly congressman and failing the Academy's minimum strength and endurance test 3 times in a row, eating up time until the war and the draft were over. Using speed-up programs designed for veterans, Cohn got both his undergraduate and law degrees at Columbia in 3 years. He was not yet 20. The day he got word he had passed the bar examination, he was sworn in as an assistant United States attorney. Within months, by his own account, he had set his first outrageous publicity fire.